Hey, how are you? Slice of Otaku, and it's been a while since we've had our last Quirk Evolution video, but here we are, back again, giving some of the lesser appreciated characters of My Hero Academia the attention they so rightfully deserve. And if you're unfamiliar with how we go about doing that, essentially we pick a character with the potential for growth and theorize how exactly their quirks may develop in the future in fun, interesting, and of course, plausible ways. This time around, I figured we could spend our time helping Hanta Sero stick out because as it currently stands, he's one of those characters whose name most people don't remember. But first and foremost, let's go over his current situation with the Quirk Tape. With it, Sero shoots out, you guessed it, tape from the openings located on each of his enlarged elbows, which serves to classify him under the mutant quirk umbrella. And trust me, I'll be the first to admit that his quirk sounds pretty ridiculous. But I'm actually starting to think it's ridiculously cool for a number of reasons. Like how, in terms of concept, this character came to be when Horikoshi casually saw some tape at a convenience store. And despite the simple origins of this seemingly simple character, with volume 3 of the manga, Horikoshi admits that Sero's quirk might just be his favorite of them all, and that at some point he'll certainly place more focus on him as a character, which is an insane statement. Like, I know volume 3 sounds a bit early, but even still, it still says a lot. The creator of the series prefers this simple quirk over all others in class 1A, and more so than One for All and even Decay. And considering it's been so long since that statement was made, we may very well be on the cusp of that new Sero spotlight we were promised so very long ago. And it's not too hard to see why Horikoshi likes him so much, since Sero pretty much personifies the overall versatility of tape. I mean, this is a quirk that can handle offense, defense, the setting of traps, capture, movement, you name it. And so that's the sort of mentality I assumed when coming up with ideas for him. When it comes to physicality, I feel like Sero may have some room for improvement. And because of the way in which he uses his tape to swing from place to place, it's easy to draw some comparisons to Spider-Man's web slinging. And with that in mind, Sero's sort of like an inverse Peter Parker, who kind of got the weak end of the deal. Whereas Peter Parker's web-associated abilities are facilitated by the use of gadgets and are further complemented by his web climbing, acrobatics, spider sense, super strength, and whatever else a writer feels like including, Sero has organic tape and calls it a day. But hey, even if he's not about to be on par with Spidey's vast array of abilities, he could still head in that direction in a way that is realistic for him. With increased strength, he'd be able to pull himself along at an accelerated pace, increasing his overall movement speed. And hey, maybe the propulsion of his tape would be sped up too due to such newfound muscularity. And he might even be able to pull an advanced Eraserhead by shifting the momentum of those caught in his tape against them as a means of retaliating or pinning. And maybe he doesn't have a Spidey sense, but I'd like to think that when dealing with enclosed spaces, it'd be possible for him to cover the place with one extremely long strand of tape, with the end still connected to his body as a means of detection akin to a tripwire. And maybe that's a bit complicated, but with the many ways he's already managed to use this quirk, I don't think it's too far out there. Now, for the remainder of the video, similarly to what we did with our Quirk Evolution video on Tsuyu and her frog quirk, I want to consider some different types of tape and the properties Sero may go on to later possess. And the reason I believe he even has the aptitude for such a thing is because of his ability to produce double-sided tape, which of course differs from what is normal for him. And when keeping in mind the versatility aspect of his character, we can pretty much turn him into an omni tool that's applicable in just about any situation. And with that, first up, we have the self-explanatory electrical tape. And I think this would be a useful tool in Sero's arsenal simply because I'm under the impression that although varied, electricity-based quirks are fairly common. And so as a means of combating or suppressing such adversaries, Sero could have this for all of his non-conductive needs. Next, for extra strength and reinforcement, we have filament tape. And if you're unfamiliar, this is a type of tape that features fiberglass filaments as a means of making its bindings that much more effective. And I think this would be particularly helpful in the lone reinforcement of crumbling debris or the binding of especially large or hulking combatants, because at a certain point, Sero's regular tape has a limit to what it can handle. After that, We kind of have a weird one, but hear me out, because bondage tape isn't as crazy as it sounds. Because if we're talking about plausibility, this one has to be up there, as Horikoshi very much considers himself to be a perv, and his assistants are apparently no different. This sort of tape could be useful when dealing with civilians, as its adhesive properties are only applicable with itself, making it a far more gentle approach. And sure, maybe this sort of thing is more up Minetta's alley, but I think it'd be funny nonetheless. But the last type of tape I'd like us to consider would be therapeutic, surgical, or wound closure tape. With all the varied ways in which Sero can be of use on the battlefield, I feel like he'd at least need some sort of medical or first aid treatment available. And honestly, although he has the potential to fill several different roles, someone whose quirk is completely outfitted for offense or solely decked out towards defense would probably serve those roles a whole lot better than he could. So more than anything, he just needs the ability to fill in wherever he is needed. To me, Sero is one of the most overlooked and underestimated characters in Class 1A, if not the entire series. So I hope we managed to do him some justice with this video, and hopefully you're able to look forward to his development as much as I am. These videos are always so much to come up with, so thanks for letting me ramble to you about a human tape dispenser for all this time. If you have any questions or ideas of your own when it comes to this character, feel free to drop them all in the comments along with who you want us to cover next. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.